Councillor Furman, you got some strange lights going on in your room. I'm seeing blues and reds flashing. I don't know if anyone else is. Yeah. So we'll turn your disco lights off. That's better. Lovely. Thanks, Paul. Thank you. Right, welcome everybody to this Leisure and Community Working Party meeting on Tuesday, the 11th of January. If I haven't already said so, belated New Year's greetings. I hope you all had a good Christmas and everything else. Quickly on to item 1, just to note that the Working Party is no delegated authority, and any recommendations we make will go to full council on the 25th of January, I believe it is. And then if the clerk has taken any urgent actions, I'm sure he'll report them. Item 2, apologies for absence.
We have apologies from Mayor Smith, from Councillor Miller-Jones and Councillor Roach.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Any declarations of interest? Requests for dispensations from anybody? Not see anybody.
Councillor Mason has his hand up.
Okay, sorry, there you are.
Sorry, Joe. I was a bit slow on the mute button.
Yeah.
Yes, when it comes to a discussion about the pantomime, I've got a non-pecuniary interest in as much as some of the comments that I'll be making will be on behalf or as a result of the discussions I've had with my wife, who was involved with it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
So to just ask, in terms of declaring an interest, what sort of interest are you declaring?
A non-pecuniary.
Okay.
Okay. Right, item 4, minutes of the last meeting held 8th of November. Have you got them available to put on screen, Colin?
I have, yes.
Lovely, thank you.
I can see it.
Yeah.
See.
Oh no, it's the agenda.
I know, just moving the controls out of the way so I can press the next button.
Yeah. All right, lovely. Thank you very much. Can I have a proposer first of all? I assume you've all read the minutes. Councillor Marks, seconder, please. Councillor Dave Smith. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Can't see the hand. There it is. Lovely. Thank you very much. Right, starting with page, going on to item 5, there aren't actually no actions, but we'll quickly run down on page 121. If anyone's got any comments on any of these, which 122, Colin, you want to move down? Like this is history now, of course. 1, 2, 3. One, two. I don't think there's anything else other than the reports and everything. No, anybody got nothing? Don't think we need to look at the rest, Colin. It's all over. Right. Okay, have we got any members of the public that are already not here? Well, we haven't got any members of the public. Colin?
No, we haven't. No.
Okay, so we won't do the public forum. Councillor Ferber, what time have you got to leave?
About 10 to 8 o'clock.
Okay.
There it goes. There it goes.
Okay, do we mind if we do then 7A first and then do 8 and then go back to 8B and carry on from there? Anyone got any objections to that? Can't see anything. Right, so let's move on to 7A, the Arts Centre report, which you've all had, which I believe, I'm assuming that a lot of it came from Sarah with, I lost Gary again. Where's Gary gone? Oh, there you are, in the middle there. No, so, who wants to take this one? Anybody? Councillor Marks.
Yeah, I think I have to say I read your report, your supplementary report to that, and I thought that was a very useful report, John. I'd like to thank you for that, because I feel maybe we just let things happen, and we've just let things happen all the time. Nick was here, and what you're suggesting is that we take better control of it, and I think that's probably.
Chair, sorry, what document are we talking about?
This is an internal document amongst councillors, actually.
Oh, sorry, John, I wasn't aware that Colin hadn't seen it.
It never went to anyone else, Colin.
Sorry, in which case I thought Colin should have seen that before the meeting tonight in order for us.
Well, it was a discussion amongst councillors.
Okay.
What we thought.
So, okay, well, I mean, it's just, you know, we are, was that for us to discuss outside of the meeting or not?
No, it's for discussion. It's to, sorry, raise questions. Sorry, excuse me. Just drop me. Just raise thoughts about where we want to go in the future.
Yeah, and I'm saying, you know, I like your report. I think it gave a lot of background and information, and I think you're right. We don't appear to be making a great deal of money out of anything. We're running at a massive loss, and maybe we do need to together look at things, running things a bit differently. So I think your report's good, probably too big for tonight's discussion in terms of its detail, but I think it's a very valid report.
Okay, can I just give a background as you've raised the subject? Basically, I wrote to councillors about my views of the Panto, having watched all of them, bar one performance, and it wasn't any criticism as such. It was more about where we go in the future in terms of, you know, do we use the same Panto company? Do we carry on selling those plastic flashy things when energy and sustainability have already said we don't like them? Those sort of things. Also, the fact that we don't get the true cost of the Panto. We came up last year, I think it was, whether or not we're seeing the real costs. Also, the things like the contract with the supplier, where we pay a lot of money up front to the supplier, presumably as part of the contract. But I'm worried about the risk on that. Gary knows I've mentioned about the state of the auditorium after each show, how much time it was taking to clear up with popcorn and other things around. And I know I asked Sarah for some information, things like how many people did we actually get through. The sales to me are irrelevant. It's how many people we had backsides on seats and things like that. So that was really to do. It was really to see whether what we would like as councillors for the council or the arts centre to consider for post 2022, i.e. 2023 onwards. That's what it was all about. Councillor Mason, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, great report. Lots of food for thought there, John. So thank you very much for that. Anecdotally, I'm aware that we have people coming from outside of Haverhill, coming specifically to the pantomime. And so which production company you go for, I totally understand, but I like the idea of it being, of us having a professional company with named talents, because I think it does draw the public in. I've got to say, I think the advertising left a lot to be desired. There were no posters in town in November, certainly that were visible. And I think there's a number of issues, partly because of COVID. And, you know, there was a time was, is the Panto actually going to happen? There was a little bit of uncertainty, and I think that might have impacted on sales. And I think I would hate to see a decision made based upon perhaps just a review of this particular Panto, because there were some things that could have been improved. I mean, there were some seats that people had bought tickets for, didn't attend, and didn't ask for the money back because they didn't feel safe. There's probably countless other people who didn't buy tickets for exactly the same reason, that they didn't feel safe. So in terms of our overall take on this particular pantomime, for me, it would be better to make a judgment on a more even footing of when perhaps the advertising and the promotion, and we don't have the uncertainty that we had on this particular performance. That's kind of the nub of what I would say. But the comments I've had feeded back to me from parents and people who went, so they absolutely love the show. And for what it's worth, my daughter, who attended, who was a performer in the show, went to see the Bury St Edmunds pantomime. And she's been in lots of pantomimes. She knows what she's talking about. And she said by a mile, the Haverhill pantomime was better than the one in Bury St Edmunds, and was mildly disgusted at a number of times that Haverhill was used as a derogatory comment through the script in the Bury St Edmunds show, which was a little bit disappointing for her. But I'm certainly happy with the quality. My main comment is I'd like any review to consider the fact that actually this wasn't a perfect run in terms of promotion and the nature of COVID. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Colin.
I really feel I should lodge my objection that a report has not been shared by the chair with any of the officers. We don't have a clue what any of you are talking about. We've not provided. We're not able to collate the data when it comes to exactly how much the panto costs, something that we have explained. So we're sitting here listening to a discussion between councillors on a report that we've not seen. We can't make any comment to the accuracy of the report you've seen, of any of the calculations. And I just think this is really a disappointing thing to be having to get involved in. We're here to service a council, and the councillors have just completely bypassed us. And I don't understand why you wouldn't wish to share a report with us.
Sorry, Colin, it's not a report, and it's nothing. There's no data as such in there. What it was a discussion document for future about things I saw at the panto that we could perhaps look at later on, and that was the idea, was for other councillors to come up with their own ideas to discuss here tonight.
Well, it's being discussed tonight, and we don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't expect the actual document to be raised. It was more a series of questions. You know full well I've asked Sarah for some data, which has not been forthcoming.
Well, to be fair, the governors govern and managers manage. In terms of instructing staff to carry out a whole load of work and research, I'm very happy for this committee to request that's done, but individual councillors are not supposed to be giving instructions to officers because they already have jobs to do. Okay. If the council in a committee wishes to give my staff jobs, they can ask me, or if the officers are present, they can have that discussion. Otherwise, all my officers end up doing work for individual councillors rather than the council, and it's the council that employs them.
I appreciate what you're saying, Colin. I apologise that if you think that you should have seen an internal document amongst councillors.
It's not an internal document if the proper officer hasn't seen it. It's an informal document written by a councillor and shared amongst other councillors, but it's being discussed now at a formal council meeting, and none of the officers have a clue what you're talking about.
The points raised by Councillor Mason have got nothing to do with the document as such. They were his interpretation of the panto in this example. And I said to start with, it's not any sort of real criticism or anything. I apologise, you may have not done it, but we send documents amongst councillors all the time for discussion. We don't send them to officers for the same reason.
They don't then just get discussed in formal council meetings, but
no,
this one clearly is.
I didn't expect that to happen, to be honest with you. I thought we were just going to have a quick and dirty discussion of how the panto went. and then when we get on and then decide where we want to go for the future. And I appreciate what you're saying. Let me go with Councillor Hanlon first, then Councillor Marks, and we'll come back.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I must say that's the reason why I've joined tonight. It didn't go to all councillors. It only went to the actual committee. Colin, I've been given it by a colleague who's on the committee. So, you know, so it's not gone to all councillors. But I completely agree with what Colin has said. It's just not fair what you've done. You should have said on there that this is private and confidential. This is just amongst us councillors as a discussion. You know, it should have been noted on there. It shouldn't have been, because it was accidentally brought up because there was nothing on there to saying that. So it's a thing that we should discuss amongst ourselves.
I agree.
And you should have stated on there it's private and confidential.
No, because it was only addressed to certain people, Pat.
Yeah, but it was brought up by the members of the committee. That's
well,
what
it was. Saying. Yeah, I agree. Okay,
it should have been put as member. You know, it should have been private and confidential just for the members. But also you should have perhaps spread it amongst the rest of the members of the council, you know, the councillors, because only I know it because I was given it.
Oh, right, but it went to the members. It went to the members of the. I understand what you're saying, Councillor. Let me go to Councillor Marks.
Yeah, I just want to unreservedly apologise. I didn't appreciate that it wasn't part of tonight's package because you often, you know, put in some helpful comments about things. I found it very helpful, the content of it, and I apologise unreservedly if that was not intended to be brought up tonight. So I've created the problem tonight, and I apologise for that, John. I am sorry.
Well, in terms of the panto, I've already mentioned about the flashy things, whether that's... Sorry, Sarah, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out of the parity between our actual figures, our 82% compared to the Theatre Royal's 86%. So I think, although obviously there's always something to be improved on the marketing, obviously we are doing something right because we are on par with Theatre Royal. And I'd also like to say that Spectrix, the box office system, has tons and tons of figures that I can provide, and I'm happy to provide them through as long as it's all through the right channels.
Okay. All right. Well, the trouble is, I'm told. Sorry, I think I've lost you again, Colin. I know you are talking right. You know, obviously we're told that you're very busy all the time, so that's why I thought I'd go to the manager and ask for some data. Otherwise, we're going to have to keep going through everything we want through you. You know, it doesn't
have to be through me, but it should be through a committee, so that the council has approved work. I don't doubt for a moment they may well be very happy to approve that work being done, but in terms of trying to, obviously I don't know what this report is, but in terms of, I know the request you put to Sarah and the request you put to me, in terms of trying to gather information for you to try and work out what the panto cost. But I think as we've put in the report for agenda item 8, trying to reverse analyse costs is incredibly difficult because you have to balance up timesheets and rotas and then know from the duty manager whether anyone didn't work that particular rota, whether they were employed doing something else rather than what they were originally rotated to do, because the rotas are written sometime in advance. And obviously, as Councillor Mason pointed out, there's always big question marks over whether an event can go ahead or not. Hence the reason we have done what we said we would do, which is we've brought in a system now so that duty managers at the end of every shift will record who was on duty, where they were on duty, times start and times finish, bar takings, number of tickets sold, etc., so that we have contemporary data. You've acknowledged, you've been told in the past that it's incredibly difficult and very long-winded to try and work out those figures, and I appreciate you offering to do that. But at the end of the day, it needs to be something that the council itself wants its workers to do. Otherwise, we'll end up with people doing, it's not particularly you, but any councillor starts giving instructions to the staff. My staff don't know which ones they're supposed to follow and which council work they don't do, or which councillors' work they don't do in favour of another. So that's why the protocol is that councillors who want a particular piece of work done, bring it to a committee like this, get the backing of their fellow councillors, and then the officers will carry out the instruction gladly.
Yeah, I agree, Colin. I'd much rather not do it. It was just the fact, here we are 12 months after the last Panto, or Panto party as it was called then. We just don't know. And I think it's worthwhile just reminding everyone, in November 2015, for those who were around, we all specifically asked via the Finance Committee for breakdown of costs, and it's never come in 6 years. But I appreciate it's difficult, but maybe it's another one of those policies and procedures we may need to look at to try and simplify it, if that's the way to do it.
It was difficult, but it's not difficult now, and we've started from beginning of January. Okay. We're collecting that information.
Well, that's great. Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Obviously this is throwing some things up. What I was thinking around was, now it looks like we're going to be getting a new art centre manager in the next few months, etc. There are a lot of events that we've done the same way for many years, etc. Maybe not. Things need to change. Maybe they're great as a lot of the stuff that we do is brilliant. But isn't this the right time to possibly set up an events and art centre working group to just basically, before we employ anyone else, to sort of look at the strategic direction of what we do, what events sacrosanct, what may or may not need to change, something like that. Just a small working party, report back to this committee and back to the full council. I don't know if there's members that are really interested in that type of thing. It might be a good idea to do it this time frame.
I saw Sarah's hand. Sarah first, then Councillor Smith.
I was going to say, this is a brilliant time to have a relook at everything we do and how we do it. And Gary and I have been looking at cinema programming and programming in some additional things with just that sort of aim in mind. And Gary and I have been talking about how product draws people in and how we might try out different products, all with the aim of keeping refreshing things. So I agree with what you're saying, Tony.
Okay, Councillor Smith, Dave Smith, and then Councillor Hanlon.
I don't really think we need another working party. I mean, that's the idea of the officers is that they come up with the ideas and then we say yay or nay. I mean, do we really need another step in the ladder, if you like? No, I think let the officers get on with their job, and obviously if we're not happy with it, then we can have our opinion then. That's what I say.
If it's helpful, Chair, this working party, the Leisure and Community Committee meeting as a working party, but it is the remit of the Leisure and Community Working Party to look at how the art centres run and how the events are put on. Obviously, there's an agenda item coming up asking precisely those questions. I wonder whether or not Councillor Brown is thinking of a meeting that could perhaps have a wider ranging discussion that wouldn't necessarily be suitable for a public meeting such as this one.
Councillor Brown, before I go to
That's precisely what I'm thinking. So thanks for encapsulating that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Handon.
Thank you, Chair. It's just that I'm a little bit worried that because of COVID, as you know, attendances are down everywhere because of COVID. And I'm just a little bit worried that looking into it, and especially when it comes to subsidy, because you always got to remember that leisure has always been subsidised, always, because of the diversity of what we put on. You know, that if we looked at making a profit or breaking even when it comes to leisure, we wouldn't have anything. We'd have to cut loads of things. So it's all about subsidy. And I'm just worried that looking at it in general terms, you know, looking at things, how we can do better is great. Looking at that side of it, I'm just a bit worried that when it comes to, oh, we're going to take that away and take that away during COVID because of, you know, because of there's non-attendance because of COVID, is a little bit worrying. We might lose something that we won't be able to get back again. Yeah, so I'm just worried, you know, I'm just erring on the side of caution on that side, really.
I don't think any of this is about necessarily about money. I think it's more about whether or not the things maybe what we put on at the Arts Centre, I don't know. You know, I enjoyed the panto. I thought, you know, as Councillor Mason said, it was very good. And Sue Hodge and Paddington, our husband, were absolutely brilliant. But sorry, Councillor Brown, you were going to say something else?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what Pat was saying. Yeah, this isn't, it shouldn't be about it should be about trying to save money, but not waste money, if you see what I mean.
Right, yeah.
You know, every event we put on, I presume, well, most events that we put on, I presume, it costs town council and the taxpayers of Haverhill money, but it's just getting the best thing that we can for our money. That's so that the most people that can enjoy it can. For one thing, I mean, I sort of got behind the splash pad. That's never going to make any money. That's going to be a drain on the town. But I'm hoping that the actual benefit will far outweigh the cost. So and that's the way we should look at all events, really.
Sarah.
Also, just to add to that, is about audience development and reaching new groups and different types of people. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think when you look at the films that Gary and you saying are looking at, and it tends to be all the same people most of the time, I believe, who come in, especially on the very low attendance figures. Sorry, I just saw somebody's hand. Councillor Furman.
Oh, John, do you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
As you say, COVID now, I go out, I'm out every weekend. I go to a lot of venues, theatres, most weekends I'm out and about. And numbers have dropped because of COVID, but times are changing. We've got to get on with it. I mean, the Apex the other night went over there, quite full. I mean, it's quite full. I mean, the Haverhill Arts is a fantastic venue there. I mean, we could do tweak a couple little bits there. I mean, change a little few things to get a wider range of audience through. Because when people come and visit the Arts Centre, I mean, I've done loads of events, and certain people have visited from Sudbury, they've never been before, and they always tend to come back because it's such a great venue and it's organised properly. I think if we could just, this year's programmes are virtually full, aren't they? I mean, this year's programmes filled, done. Is that right, John? No?
I think Nick, before he left, and I'm sure Colin can confirm and Sarah can confirm, I believe he was tasked with that job, and I think he did a pretty good job of it.
Pretty much full up until September, and then it starts to thin out a little bit, and then it goes back into panto time.
Okay. But I think people will start coming out again because people don't want to travel so much now. I think you'll see it happening. I'll guarantee you will.
Yeah. I mean, the panto attendances were a hell of a lot better than I thought they were going to be, I have to say. But this is not about the attendances. We can't control that. You can't control COVID. Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to reiterate a point I made earlier, and that was about the advertising for publishing on social media and posters around town. We did get people coming in from Cambridge. We did get some people coming in from Linton. We've also had comments from people who had no idea. And what I'd be quite interested in is finding out from officers about how they go about trying to reach out into these other satellite communities in terms of letting people know that there is actually a pantomime going on, because it feels a little bit hit and miss. And this particular year, I think the advertising was a little bit late.
We did do a lot of marketing, although some of it, this is one of my big bugbears, is that it's not visible, it's below the line. So if it's not on Facebook and not on posters, then people don't think there's anything happening. But we have done lots of direct mail, postals, email. We've done advertising. This is above, but we've done advertising in East Anglian, and we did the Star Radio ad. So there has been a lot going on. It's just, I don't want to say cliche, but you know, the Facebook algorithms, they're very tricky. We've done paid for advertising on social media. We've done our own sort of organic posts on social media, and we've had some good results from that, like in the thousands. We're measuring the reach of everything that we do so that we can evaluate. But yeah, maybe posters weren't so prevalent, but there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that if you're not in the loops or on the direct mail list, you just won't know about.
Yeah, I think it was a difficult year, but of course this report is not just about the panto itself, although that's, I suppose in December was the vast majority of that. I think there might have been a couple of films that are going on. I can't remember the beginning of the month in December I'm talking about. Certainly in November there was anything. Did you want to say anything else? Oh, sorry, Councillor Lucarini first.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something on the Facebook posts. I think they're the best we've done. I love the videos. Absolutely brilliant idea. And I hope we can do that for future events. I think they're really engaging for people.
We struck lucky with you on that one.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. The day I saw her, when she walked in and mentioned it to her, she was so enthusiastic. Just reminded me of Hello again. But she's very, very proactive person. Was there anything else you wanted to say on anything of the other arts? Oh, sorry, Tony. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just a quick little point on something that Joe said around your daughter actually went along to the Apex and the pantomime there, and they was actually denigrating Haverhill during the pantomime. Well, actually, I'm pretty bloody fed up about that, to be fair. Haverhill residents, via their council tax, fund the Apex. I don't know if as town council we should actually send them a quick letter or something like that to say, we're not very happy. A lot of us spend a lot of time and effort to try and make this town what it is, and to try and improve its name in the area. And I don't appreciate being poked fun at by bloody Apex people. I don't at all.
Sarah might say something. I was going to say something, but might say what I'm going to say, but then Councillor Marks.
No, I don't think so. I was going to say I'm actually meeting someone from the Apex later this month just to have a chat about things. Okay. So as a first sort of gambit, I'll mention it then.
Okay, I was just going, before I go to Councillor Marks, it was just the fact that during the panto, it's certainly not degenerating Berries and Edmonds, but some of the actors they use villages or places close by as if it's the bad place. It's a panto at the end of the day. So in this case, it was Steeple Bumstead. Sarah may not be happy about. No. Councillor Marks?
No, I was going to raise the point that Tony just raised, because I have to say, since Joe said it, I was talking to somebody who wants to move into Haverhill from Duxford yesterday, and they actually said it still has this very bad name, and it took me quite a long time to explain to them we've got all this, you know, new demographics here and new people, and it's a very different place to the 1950s. But things like that do not help, and I think it's inappropriate. And I do absolutely support Tony's view that we shouldn't just let it go, because, you know, it's too easy just to say it doesn't matter, it was Panto. Sorry, it does matter. It matters a great deal. It matters to people here. Certainly matters to me. So yes, please, can we do something about it?
Is that Sarah? Is that okay with you to bring up with? I lost you again. There you are.
Yeah, I can mention it definitely.
Yeah, I don't know what was said, of course. You know, so
we might have to sign a disclaimer that none of the comedians can slag off Berry. It might be a reciprocal arrangement.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but if you look at the videos, you know, it wasn't really. It was just the fact there was Steeple Bumpstead Castle and the nasty man from Steeple Bumpstead or something, whatever it was. Okay. Was there any? So, was there anything else on the art centre generally? Because your report was, you know, obviously 99% was Panto, but obviously that's the biggest item. But is there anything else or anything future that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. Apart from that, Gary and I are looking at some of the things that we've got going on, and we're working quite well together, I'd say. Would you, Gary?
Oh, excellent. Maybe. Gary, did you want to say anything? So you're muted. Lost you again.
No, not really. I just say that we're trying a few new. We've got an anime film coming in for the summer, for the in a few weeks screening. So we're trying a few new things. But I think you've touched on it before. I can't remember who it was. That actually we can keep the best of what has been on, but we can also maybe branch out into new areas. And I think combining the ideas that Sarah and I have had, along with whoever comes in this new post, I think we can keep the best of what has been here for the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but also I think try and reach some new people as well.
Yeah, that's great. Councillor Marks?
I'd quite like to comment as well about the merchandising, how one, it's tat, and two, it's a lost leader. I think that is that's a very quick win on that, to look at not having tat. I don't think we should be promoting tat. That doesn't really do well for us. And I certainly don't think we should be promoting stuff that is a lost leader. And there are things that we could sell at these events that would make us money, that would be much more attractive to people.
It's not actually our tat. It's the Panto producer.
Yeah.
And we get a commission from it.
But I think
But we don't make we actually, it costs us money to sell that stuff on behalf of the production company. But more importantly is the fact it's all plastic stuff that after a few hours gets thrown away. Because the battery runs out or whatever it is that powers it. And of course the other problem was it didn't turn up till halfway through the pantomime. Any comments on that, Sarah, at all? Sorry. I thought you'd frozen for a moment then. Sorry.
No, that's just my face freezing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, I mean, we get 10% on that, so we could possibly increase it. I don't know.
No, it's just the fact that we have members of staff, our staff, having to sell it. Yeah, the Panto company doesn't sell it. We've got a member of our staff.
We don't have an additional member of staff on to sell it. It's a staff that's been brought in to do another job, and then they just walk out and do a bit of merchandise selling.
Yeah, but it's just the fact we're selling something on behalf of another company. That's and we're only getting 10%, of something which probably cost pence to buy, I suspect. Anybody else on art centre events at all? Anything you want to come back on, Colin, at all?
Well, I think I certainly agree about the description of the merchandise, but it seems it's the sort of thing that they sold £500 worth. I think it's all part of the agreement that was set between the art centre and the Panto company, and we will need to sit down and discuss that again. And I think that in terms of did it or didn't it make a profit? I think there's also a question of when we are putting on events that are very, very popular and can fill the auditorium, we're bank full. You can't sell any more tickets once the auditorium is full. So if the arrangements we have with the whether it be Panto, whether it be promoters of, or producers of any other event, I think there is a discussion to be had of if we've filled the auditorium, then I would expect, and I think the person in the street would expect, that in some way or another the Arts Centre would have come out with some form of return to show rather than still made a loss. Now, I appreciate that there may be some occasions when the council thinks it's worthwhile filling the auditorium and making a loss. But generally speaking, I would have thought that promoters we work with, producers we work with, would not consider it unreasonable for the council to say, well, we don't think we should be out of pocket at the end of this. We think we should be at least slightly better off than we were, because then that goes to pay for other shows which are audience development, reach out to people who wouldn't use the Arts Centre, perhaps give people in Hayfield the chance to see shows that wouldn't necessarily normally be put on locally. And I think we would expect some kind of quid pro quo where the times we fill the auditorium are the times we help pay for the shows that will never fill the auditorium. So I think there's definitely a discussion to be had with our partners in putting on all these shows that says, if we're still not making any money, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, I think that's personally my general thing is, it is the Panto as an event, is 17 shows of, very good. The actors all work hard. Everyone works hard. Tech team, even down to the ushers who have to sit through it several times and listen to the same jokes and everything. I think that's a very valid point. I think back to our local stage company whose Panto, in a normal year, it's their money earner, where the rest of them are not loss leaders, but they expect to make a loss on everything else. So at least they come out, break even would be nice, perhaps. So okay, all right. Well, we've done this one. Sorry, Councillor Furman.
Just a quick one, John, before I go. Talk about numbers being down on events. I mean, the Funk Odyssey we done before Christmas, we was over 90 people down on that night.
Yeah. Because
of the situation, really, people were already to come out. I mean, I've got another event in March, beginning of March, and that's quite a popular band, Big Ten, a fantastic band. We're doing that. The money for that's going towards the Haverhill Sleigh. We're going to donate to that. But we're struggling with that at the moment, so it's a little bit hard at the moment out there, but I think it will come back.
Yeah. I think I was saying to somebody else, there's a very good British, I don't know whether he is a doctor or GP or something, called Dr. John Campbell on YouTube, who's just really brilliant videos about COVID and Omicron and all this sort of stuff. Really quite close stuff. You get a chance to. Gary, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to flag that we also need to understand that we're kind of limited by the capacity of the auditorium itself. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about lost leaders and putting shows on, etc., etc., I mean, this isn't unique to us. We had this at my previous theatre, that only having either 168 or 210 seated people means that if you're paying X amount for a person to come in, then the consideration could be that the ticket price goes up because we can't put more bums on seats.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about bringing people in, subsidising them, that certainly I think should be in the equation, and that's certainly something we've been talking about the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you've got Rich Hall, you've got what's his name, Tom Allen later in the year, and also the other young lad who's coming April, is it March, April time? Can't think of his name at the moment.
Mark Steele.
Mark Steele, yeah, you got it. You know, these are people who people remember. They say, "Oh, look, they had the Mark Steele on," or you know, as Nick said at his leaving do, you know, Michael McIntyre all those years ago. You know, whatever happened to him? You know, it's. I think it's very important.
I think we've had discussions the past year or so about the life term of the rake seating.
Yeah,
and I think the conversation might be worth having of potentially when the council does invest in a new reg system, the potentiality for upping the seats is looked at beyond what we have at the moment. Even if you're adding over the course of a lifetime of say another 20, 30 seats at £15 a ticket coming in over the lifetime, say 10 to 20 years of that seat, I think that's something that we could investigate.
of course, there is that massive desire to have a very nice new art centre somewhere. I don't know. I think that might be. I don't know. I can't say much. So, Councillor Dave Smith.
Thanks. Yeah. I think we have to recognise that we a geographic position. We put things on because people generally can't travel to other places to visit. People are not going to come from Bury, Cambridge, whatever, to come to Haverhill because they've got their own art centres. We may well make loss on events, and to me, that's not the most important thing. It's the fact that we're putting on things for our residents that are unable to travel to other places to witness. We put on a service. We're not a business. If you like, we're a social enterprise. If we make a profit, brilliant. But it will always be, as Pat said earlier, we will always have to subsidise these things. So, evolution, yes. Revolution, no. We want to build on what we got. And sort of perhaps let some fall wither on the vine if it's not working. But we don't need to do anything drastically different. That's what I'm saying.
I think you're dead right. We always said that you put on craft fairs or whatever else it might be. Of course, they're going to cost the council money. Of course they are, but they are provide a service to the community. But it's also the obtuse side of things. I know for a fact, because I've been in there, that sometimes you'll have a film on, you'll have half a dozen people in the auditorium, but you've got 4 members of staff sat there. Is that a good value of of taxpayers' money when it's perhaps costing £300 or £400 to put a film on?
When I worked for the Picture House chain, most cinemas run at 25% capacity.
Right.
The key to it is ensuring that you can run those small little films at a loss, but the key thing is making sure you have the other stuff that pulls the people in. And balances it all out. Yeah. And then there'll always be screenings where there will be a few people. That's always going to happen. It's ensuring that, for example, the example you said about the cinema is ensuring that the cinema program has enough consistent big hitters or ones that are taking in 50 to 100 people, so that those smaller, more challenging films, more specialist, there are people out there who want to watch that. Not everyone has access to Netflix and Disney Plus. Amazon, so we can reach that audience as well. So it's about making best use of our programming time.
No, I agree. I think it's a good discussion. I think it's we said previously it's a good time to review everything we do. So unless anyone else has got anything on that, should we move on the agenda?
Councillor Lucarini has his hand up.
Sorry, Aaron. Everyone keeps moving about as they use the hand thing. Sorry.
That's right. I was going to say, I agree with Dave. More than happy to subsidise things. It's accepted in Haverhill that you pay your council tax to fund things like the art centre. I personally, I'm more than happy to do that. But things like the cinema, if certain kinds of films, and I've looked through the attendance, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but there was a number of showings where you get 1-2 people. There isn't much point in running it. You might as well actually buy a ticket for Cineworld and just give them that. It'd be far cheaper. A lot of the time they are films that have been on at Cineworld a few weeks prior. Being slightly more kind of clever about the things we're putting on would be good.
That might be one of the reviews of who supplies everything. Do we keep carrying on with the same film provider in this case, whoever that may be? You know, I have no idea. You know, that's not my ballywhack or anything.
Sometimes we are restricted by what's actually available, because everyone knows the James Bond thing over COVID, where there was, or the James Bond cycle where you can't put anything out in that time.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, as Gary and I found this time, maybe not films we would have put on if we had a whole gamut of films to choose from. But it's just like Hobson's choice.
Okay.
Chair, just a reminder, Councillor Brown did mention he's suggesting a
working group or something.
Well, at least a closed session. I mean, there is the Arts Centre working group already exists, which I think basically was set up to do exactly what he's talking about in terms of the ability to look at actual contracts and see how they're written and what the impact is. I mean, I would put the kind of the slight health warning that I mentioned earlier, that we really need the opportunity to be able to calculate some of the costs anyway, and it's difficult to do that in arrears. But as we go through this year, we will rapidly start to establish a pattern and understand not so much which films or which shows are break even, make a loss, even make money, but at least the sort of the pattern of if X number of people turn up to a film, or how many people would need to turn up to a film to cover our costs.
Yeah.
So that data, it'll grow week by week. So whether it's something you want to schedule in for a couple of months' time to see what we can work out, we'll have a lot more data then.
Yeah, I think before going on to Councillor Marks, as I said, as Sarah quite correctly confirmed earlier on, that Nick has booked everything up till about September-ish time. So there's very little we can do in terms of the Arts Centre side of things. We'll get on to events in a minute. I've lost Councillor Marks and then Councillor Brown again.
Yeah, just, one of the things we really do need to be doing is asking the public what they want. And I think, as you rightly say, thinking out of the box a bit. I know this isn't going to be popular with most of the councillors, but a lot of the people in Haverhill have asked if they can have a bingo event. They make quite a lot of money. They're very popular. And also somebody was talking about the music halls. Now, I used to attend a lot in Saffron Walden. That was very popular there, where you have, a dinner, you sit down and you have a very simple meal, and you have the tables. People quite like that. They like that sort of idea of going out in a little group, sitting down, having a meal and making an event out of it. So I think maybe we could all chuck in some ideas as well, and maybe do what Nick did when he was asking questions. You remember he put up the questionnaires and asked the public? I think that would be quite nice, because we can really get a feel then, saying here's an option list. Can you score these from 1 to 10, 1 to 20, whatever? If these were on, would you attend? Are these the sort of things you like? You're going to get a mixed reception, depending whether they're young or whether they're old. So obviously their age would be helpful. We don't really need to know much more than that. But I just think, we're doing this on behalf of the public. We should really be asking the public what they want in order to us to give them what they want. And I agree with Colin, we should be putting on 50% of what we do. We should be trying to make a break even, if not a bit of a profit, to pay for those things that we inevitably put on. We only have to look at things like, what was it, puppetry of the penis or whatever. Do you remember that was such a sellout? We made loads of money on that. So I can laugh, but you know what? That's what I wanted. And it just made us a lot of money, and it got us. People talked about that for ages, and people come from miles to see that, because we kind of thought out the box a little bit and stuck it on. And Nick was worried sick about doing it, but it worked. So we do need to perhaps stop being constrained by what we think people want, and ask them what they really do want.
I think as before going to Tony, was Colin is quite right, is you can fill the auditorium and still lose money ultimately, because of the way that these big acts, particularly big acts, some of the big acts actually charge virtually nothing, which is quite surprising, because they just like performing. But Tony, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, all I was going to say was the group, it would be great to have a couple of 3 meetings before we actually take someone on in the role as Arts Centre manager, just so we can sort of review stuff, chat amongst ourselves and sort of get a strategy together, exactly what we want to do. And it isn't about reinventing the wheel or anything like that. I mean, a lot of the events we do and the way we do them is great, but it'd just be good just to sit down and have a couple of free meetings before we actually take someone on and just get a future strategy sort of together.
Is that something we could organise as part of the, as you rightly said, Colin, the Arts Centre work group, whatever it's called?
Yeah, I can call a meeting of that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks, Sarah, and going for all that. Did you want to? We got Michelle here as well. So, should we just just insert the events program at this point, as Sarah's here and Gary's here, and they don't want to necessarily hang around the whole meeting. And then we got Michelle, but Michelle's here. Why don't we? You've got to go. Well, you're supposed to have gone, haven't you, Paul? Councillor Furman. Are you staying, or no? You're muted now.
Sure, mate. Yeah, I'll stay a bit longer. Which wait the
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, Michelle, let's. I just want to get the events. Hopefully, won't take too long. Again, I had ideas internally amongst, and none of them were. I think some of them we know all about. Any thoughts on events from anybody? And again, thanks for the, especially the costs of some of these costs we've never seen before. Councillor Brown, was you going to say something? No.
Yeah, I think that really the events should be part of the working group. Yeah, the stuff that we look at. Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, as Colin mentioned, I mentioned about the Panto. I also, which Councillor Marsh just mentioned, about whether we need to ask the public what they think, and it's not just about high street, arts centre stuff, but also events. I'm conscious, of course, we can't leave it too long because we need to organise events, and they don't take 5 minutes to organise. The only query I had specifically, obviously there is a group that's looking at the Jubilee events. I'm not a great fan of the street festival. I don't think it necessarily brings people in. That's my personal view. I think the one that I do have a problem with is the tribute nights, because I know we were working on removing those and replacing them with something else. I said, it was that came up at other meetings we've had in the past, and I know Nick was looking at things like an arts weekend where we have the stage for the whole weekend. So you could bring along if you want to bring your tribute thing, that's fine. But equally the silver band, dance groups, like Lisa's group or whoever, that's what we were working to. So I was a little bit surprised that was on the agenda for that. The fun days, I think we either do them on all estates, or we don't do them at all, or we centralise them. Put something on the rec, if you like, for everybody to come to, rather than trying to let them come to us, if you like, rather than us go to them. Or, as has been mentioned in the report, is try and get local people, like Haverhill South Forum, they do their own thing. Sorry, do you want to come in there, Dave? Because I guess it's something you guys do anyway. You're muted.
Sorry, did double clicks. You talk about something putting something on the rec, then you sort of like into the realms of like the Haverhill Show and Big Day Out or whatever. I think the idea of having them on the estates, I know we can't have them everywhere, but it is to sort of bring a bit of life to other parts of the town. I mean, we concentrate a lot on the town centre. We've got town centre master plan, and we don't have a lot for the rest of the town. So I think it's good that we actually do go out and show ourselves to the residents and say, yes, this is what we do as a town council. I noticed on the list that it was possibly doing one on the Parkway as well, which is something that I would like to see. But the problem is we haven't got the residents groups that we used to have. We've got a Haverhill South group, but the Chalston residents groups folded. The behavioural, the Parkway one is more or less folded. I've been speaking to people that were involved in them previously to try and revive that. But at the moment, there is nobody that could take on such an event. So I think they would need the help of the town council to do something like that, because they wouldn't have the experience. And so I would like to see the events around the town continue.
Okay, but my view is, if we're going to do them, we need to expand them to, we got things like the Arundine and what's it called, Hales Barn estate, which just don't have anything over there. Sorry, Councillor Mason.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just in reference to the report, the Haverhill show isn't listed because, of course, it's not a Haverhill Town Council event, but there are costs related to the support that is provided by the Town Council, not in terms of just the grant money, but the staffing for that event. And I just wondered if there were any other events similar to that the Haverhill Town Council bears a cost, but isn't necessarily outright a Haverhill Town Council event. Does that make sense?
Just to say, Chair, that none of the budget costs, as explained in the report, none of the budget costs you see there include staff costs. So the budget that you see in the annual budget for supporting the Haverhill show is nil, because the cost of staffing isn't shown above the line, if you like. It's in a separate pot where we know how many hours in total we employ our staff for, which covers supporting things like the Haverhill show. So the budget has never shown any of those costs, which is why it's nil. I'm not aware that there's any other events that go on where we provide personnel for it.
The only one I was going to mention was the outdoor theatre.
The outdoor theatre is on the list because we also provide some of the resource for it. So it's a £500 cost, is generally speaking, but it's included in the 38,000 overall cost of the summer event. So that is on the list because we provide tech staff and we provide some resource as well.
Yeah, I think it was because Councillor Mason was going on about a non-town council organised event, because the outdoor theatre is not.
No, but we do incur a cost, hence the reason.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, no, obviously there's staffing as well. Do you think, in all honesty, at the end of this year, we will have a decent cost, including labour, for every one of these events?
Yes, because that's how we're planning to record the information as it goes. So we'll know precisely how it works. I could just say this list is illustrative and is not meant to be simply approved. That would be quite a big undertaking, because it's effectively a much larger list than normal, because it's included a list of all the sorts of events that you've had in the past, plus a suggestion of there's 2 events there that haven't happened before. So it was actually to spur discussion rather than simply be approved. And also in terms of the dates, the other discussion have on that is the Makers Market. West Suffolk is proposing having those the first Saturday of the month. And there's, I think, 3 clashes effectively on the Market Square, or potentially on the Market Square. I don't know, in terms of, it's probably worth this committee just kind of confirming that they're happy for the working party that normally does the Remembrance Sunday and Armed Forces Day to take on organising the Queen's Platinum Jubilee event, and what you actually mean by that. We know that there's things like lighting a beacon, but there's also suggestions to have a street party, and I think we just need clarity that if there is a group who are willing to lead on that we know that they're leading on all of it, and we don't discovered too late that they're focusing only on the more ceremonial part.
Yeah. It was a note I made that apart from the beacon, which is a little bit vague at the moment, but they announced stuff yesterday, I think it was. But the big thing, as you sort of said, whether it's a street party or they calling it the big lunch, where everyone goes together, which is that's good. Sarah, then Councillor Furman.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. Did the Green Fair go on there, Colin, on
No.
the 26th of March?
No, that one isn't on there. No, you're absolutely right. Although I think it's probably we probably ought to need to add those in because there's a couple, aren't there, that are scheduled with Sharon, aren't there?
I don't know. I know about the Green Fair because I'm involved in that one, but there are probably more. I just remembered all of a sudden.
Yeah,
I thought you arranged one for the autumn as well as the
Green Fair.
spring.
I think I was just asked to do one for the spring.
Oh, okay.
But we could do.
Councillor Furman, you're muted.
The Makers Market, you're saying it double clashes in the square of other events. I, for the life of me, am so frustrated, cannot see why the Makers Market is put in the market square, because the market is very, very sparse on a Friday. On a Saturday. And I can't see the reason why they don't put the Makers Market at the High Street and make it a much better event for the town. I mean, at the moment, it's stuck on the limit out there. And it's, in my view, and it is a proper view, it's a waste of time being there.
Yeah.
So they move up the High Street, boom.
It's one thing that, as being part of the market review group or chairman of the market review group, we are looking at that because they become two separate markets.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And
It's wrong.
That has come out in the comments from the market survey that was done as well. Especially if we had one last Saturday, I know it was chucking it down with rain, but we had 3 market stalls in the High Street. 4 stalls. Was it 4? Well, one went.
4 star, John. Come on, give us a bit of a leeway.
Yeah, okay. Well, like 4 stalls, but and it was just dead down there.
Well, that's the way it's going to be during the summer. Yeah, you can't.
No, I understand that. But if you'd had a Makers Market, you would have had that in the High Street, and we would have brought people down. I agree totally, and I think we need to add that Green Fair and anything else that you can think of like that.
Brilliant. Well, I've got to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, mate. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Yeah, see you later.
Chair, would it be useful to work our way down the list just so that we can be kind of methodical and make sure that we've covered everything?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm suggesting in terms of the St Patrick's Day parade suggestion, I believe a gentleman talked to the mayor about that. I think regardless, I don't think we particularly need to discuss the merits or the possibilities. I think we really only need to focus on the fact it's 2 months away and we can't realistically, we need 3 months to book the road space. So that's not really very practical. And if it's on a Saturday, then you've got the Haverhill market to consider. So whatever the merits of the suggestion, that's something we'd have to work up over the course of a year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Tony, very quick.
Yeah, I was to say on the St Patrick's Day parade. It sounds like a very good idea, but the thing is, as soon as we have that, surely people will ask for St George's Day, St Andrew's Day, etc., etc. I'm all for it, but is it something that ball that we're going to start rolling? I don't know.
That came about because of the Chinese New Year. The person that suggested it objected to the fact that we had the Chinese New Year. So there is that.
Yeah, so
that's exactly my point.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
And it may well be that in the course of discussing the possibility of a St Patrick's Day parade, that actually, I think there's the last census showed there was 0.47% of the population of Haverhill identify as Irish, or at least principally Irish, I guess, in terms of a census. So it may be that by the time you've got a parade, there isn't actually anybody left to watch it because all the people with Irish heritage are already in it. But we'll see. We can make contact with the gentleman and see, whether he's a man with an idea, or whether he's a man with an idea and 50 people who want to support him. So we'll soon find out. Hayville Beer Weekend. There is obviously a Hayville Beer Festival organised by West Suffolk Council. And in terms of the nature of a beer weekend, there's obviously the chances of there being a bid established in Haverhill, and I can't help thinking that a beer festival is quite a kind of it's a kind of a semi-commercial type thing. We've put one on in May over the bank holiday weekend, although we don't normally do the Monday. Dates have changed around a little bit because of it. But we do have to have the beer sit for quite a while. So although we don't quite break even, we make a slight loss on the event. We also then lose 2 days at least, if not 3 days, of auditorium use. So there's a utility cost to us. I wonder whether it would be worth having a discussion with West Suffolk as they run a beer festival and with the Heart of Hayville to see whether or not, as there are hospitality businesses in town, whether this is something they might want to do different. The Nethergate breweries have changed their model of business, which means we wouldn't be able to partner with them and have lots of guest beers. So we're going to have to rethink how we do it from scratch to begin with.
There are other local breweries. Councillor Luccarini?
Yeah, I've always been a little bit sceptical of the beer weekend. It seems a little odd to run something that draws people away from pubs in our town centre that need supporting. So I'd be happy to see it lost, or at least transferred over to someone like the bid, if they're interested in taking it on.
Councillor Tate-Smith?
I think it's a good event. I've been to it in the past, and you're not sort of you're not having beers that are normally available in pubs in the town anyway. So yeah, you may be sort of taking people over the pubs, but you're not sort of taking their beer. If you talk with the point of having the beer stand, I mean, we've now got that extension at the back there, which could be, I think, maybe an ideal place to have a bar there for the beer barrels. You know, do you know what I mean? That by the back door. I mean, a supplementary bar, as it were. So I think it would be doable, and you wouldn't be using up the auditorium.
That's assuming, of course, you're going to hold it in the Arts Centre rather than the Market Square, which is where West Suffolk hold theirs. So, look, Councillor Marks. Yeah, Councillor Marks.
I work at the Beer Festival for charity in Bury every year. Hugely successful, very, very popular, and a completely different. Generally, a lot of the people who go to the beer festival are not the people perhaps who go to the normal pubs either. And honestly, it generates a lot of interest. It generates a lot of good feeling. Martin Bate is the kind of guy from Camera who runs that, has run it for years. Martin's lovely, and I'm sure he would be really happy to support and advise anything you wanted to know on that. But I just think it's something different. I think it's great for the guys of the town, particularly who like real ale. I think as Councillor Smith said, you don't get a lot of those beers. They are very different, but they're not just beers. They have, I mean, I ran a bar with gin and tonics. We had 30 different gins on it, and, you know, attracted an enormous amount of ladies to come along, try those different things, and then they will go back and perhaps try them in their own environment. So I disagree with Councillor Luccarini. I think it is a successful event. I think it's an event that brings people together as well. You know, it's a very inclusive event, provided they haven't got COVID. I like it, and Martin Bate would be very helpful to you.
We have spoken with Martin in the past.
Yeah,
he attends every year. Yeah, he comes every year, and he's always said he's happy to help.
No, he's very helpful. He's a lovely, lovely guy. So his wife has got, and it isn't a secret, she has got breast cancer at the moment. They are going through their own personal hell, but he's still being very helpful.
I'm just going to jokingly declare a non-pecuniary interest. I was a founding member of Camera in 1970. something, 6, 7, whenever it was. Still am. Just mention it. All right. Okay. So we need to think about that. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about was Tony Brown's idea ages ago of having an Oktoberfest type concept, but not necessarily in October. Maybe call it something different. Because I think what Councillor March just said about, you know, having non-beer products is also very valid. Otherwise, you know, you isolate people who just don't drink beer.
Yeah, we had a gin stall at the last beer festival, and it was very popular.
So, Councillor Smith?
I was just going to say I'd stay away from October because there's too much competition that time of year.
Okay. Okay. Queen's Platinum Jubilee, I think we've already said that, which comes under the working group that's doing AF Armed Forces Day and everything else. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, obviously because it is a Queen's Platinum, it's a double bank holiday weekend as well. I think we should really try and pull out all the stops we can. You know, maybe a big picnic on the wreck. Sort of really pull out all the stops. Something like really. I mean, it's not just the working group. If anyone else has got any ideas, you know, throw them our way, and yeah, we'd be sort of glad to evaluate them. Yeah.
Okay. Can't see any comments on that. Street festival.
So the question here is whether we have some funding that we spent before Christmas, which was to have street entertainment most Saturdays to try and make Haverhill a place where people will go into the town centre just to see what's happening. The street festival in the past has been a day, which has been fantastic, really, you know, amazing stuff Nick found from all over the country. It really just, you know, you have to see it to believe it, really. But it's whether or not that spread through the year rather than on one particular day would be more useful for keeping the town centre lively.
Councillor Lucarini?
Yeah, we've had some brilliant acts in the high street, especially over the COVID period. I'm not convinced though that they attracted any more people into the town centre, especially ones that coincided with a bank holiday. They tend to be quiet days in the town anyway, and there was hardly anyone watching the street entertainment when we did it on those days. It does give a nice atmosphere, and maybe it keeps people coming back. I think I prefer to support spreading the money out rather than just having all of that money spent on one day. The only other thing is as well, we had buskers for the last 2 years, which I think worked really well. Obviously, they cost us very little to put on. It's just bringing a PA down. If we could maybe look at doing that again, and also actually letting them keep the money. In the past, we've done it that they collect for charity. I can't see any reason why they can't just collect money for themselves.
Yeah, I agree about the latter. So I don't know what that noise was. The latter side of things. I think those, and they're all local entertainers. You know, young people who are still at school. There's some really good sessions in the high street, but we need to get, you know, some of them unfortunately didn't have PA, certainly in the first part of the thing. And I think certainly during the decent months, if you like, you want to call it, we do. But I agree with Councillor Lucarini. You know, I go down there every time there is street entertainment on, and it doesn't really attract people. They're already there when the street entertainment come out. You don't see anyone crowding around. And I'm, you know, so I think spending the money wisely, I think, is probably the best way to describe it, rather than necessarily, you know, call it street festival if you want to, but not necessarily the same old street entertainers all the time. People, you know, don't really take much notice of it. That's my personal view. I don't know if anyone else has got any other views on it. No.
Is the committee suggesting that we spread that money in terms of street entertainment through the course of the year?
Personally, I would say not across the whole year, but it's up to others, of course. Councillor Dave Smith, then Councillor Lucarini.
So if you're saying the idea is to attract more people to the town, I'm guessing you'll want people to be spending more money in the shop. So my question then is, what support are the local businesses giving to it?
My thoughts exactly. Yeah, exactly. But in theory, that's what this Heart of Hayville is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, potentially it might be that the bid decide that they would want to enhance what we're spending in order to make it go further. And I think that's an interesting test, isn't it? I mean, if that's the idea, and it's difficult to tell whether somebody's come in just to see what's happening, but the theory is that putting on entertainment makes a difference. And I guess it would be an acid test to whether or not if businesses don't think it's a good idea, then perhaps we're better off doing a one-off event. So it'd be interesting to have that conversation with Heart of Haverhill.
Yeah, and also, of course, the bid has to be careful because they can't replicate or take on something the town council's already doing.
No, but they can enhance it.
Okay, that's not what I've been told. Okay, by West Suffolk, but that's interesting what you're saying there. Councillor,
well, they can't take over. They can't replace. We're not allowed to take our ball away, if you like. So we can't go through this list and say we don't need to bother paying for that because the bid can pay for that now, because there's a kind of freeze on what we approve and what West Suffolk approve. It's that way round. But the whole point of them generating income is to spend it to improve the footfall in the town. Otherwise, it'd be a bit pointless. They would have nothing to spend the money on.
Okay. Slightly different way I've been described to me, but that's not matter. Councillor Lucarini, then Councillor Marks.
So it seems the perfect event for the bid to kind of top up. They're going to be collecting quite a lot of money from businesses in the town if it goes ahead. So if they like it, then yeah, it'd be great if they kind of chipped in. If we do spread the money out, it's just making sure that we're putting it on days where we really feel that there's people around that we can attract into the town. Just don't put it on a bank holiday or in the middle of half term when everyone's on holiday. Then weeks are always quiet. And we're just not going to attract people.
Councillor Marks.
Back to the time when we had Tina, and I was trying to work with Tina to attract the new people who moved into Haverhill, and we were, we worked really well together, and we were putting together a package, much like you get when you go into a hotel when you're abroad. And I don't care what anybody says about social media, you go into a hotel and you pick up that package to look about what's going on. We all do it. We lay on the bed and we look at it. And we were working on putting together this package that was just in a clip folder with the church illuminated on the back, all sorts of offers from the town, like a free coffee with a cake, because unless you get those people coming in the town in the beginning, and I can tell you, like John, I walk the town regularly, you don't see those new people who've moved into those new builds. I didn't shop in this town for 9 years. I went to Cambridge. Even though I lived here, I did not shop in this town. And so we really need to think about getting something through the estate agents to give them, when they move into the town, to attract them to come to the town. It needs to be an offer to get them to come in, because they won't come back until they've been here once. Now, I'm really happy if the town council is minded to put together a package. I am absolutely happy to go and hand deliver that to every new house in this town. I will do that. And in it will say, if there's nothing in here to attract you, let us know what it is that will. I'm happy to do that. But unless we start really being proactive about talking to those new people in the town, they won't come in the town. I didn't. And I was dragged in screaming by a friend who lived here who told me I was a snob. And I was quite shocked by how much I could get here, and I rarely shop elsewhere now.
We have had these discussions before, haven't we, Colin?
We keep going back to the fact, when I chuck this in, everybody says people only look on social media. I do the vaccination centre every Friday, and the one thing that people come and tell me was, if my neighbour hadn't told me, I wouldn't have even known about today.
No, this was about working with the developers to make sure that they give the new owners the packages. I mean, it happened, when Hanchet End was built, exactly.
But we can. The estate agents, John, were really happy to do this because we went and talked to them. They said, yeah, they'll happily do it.
Yeah, but these are new builds, which you tend not to go through an estate agent. You go through.
But then I'm happy to go and hand deliver.
No, I understand, but
that.
we have discussed this. So I'd like to. I can't remember, Colin, where we stood with this. I thought we were going to.
But we can also put a list in of all these events that are going.
Yeah. No, it was going to be a whole package of stuff. I don't know.
But I am happy to go and hand deliver it. That's an offer I'm making to you, so that we stop kicking back and making this excuse that that people are on social media, because honest to God, they really are. Very large numbers of them are not, and even if they are, they don't look at our website per se.
No. I understand that. Where did we go with that, Colin, by the way? Can you remember?
Chair, I can't remember either, to be perfectly honest. I recall the discussion, but I don't recall the outcome. But we do have some councillors on that. Perhaps I remember. Yeah,
I say, yeah. Councillor Mason, then Lucarini.
Thanks, Chair. I wouldn't like comments of Councillor Marks to be dismissed out of hand. I would actually join her. I totally agree about social media. We've got to be so much smarter about how we communicate with people. And I like the idea of face-to-face and actually letterboxing, and I'm willing to put some work in on that as well. One anecdote that I have is we had a parent finally contact us because they had been recommended to my wife's dance school. They'd never heard of Lisa Mason School of Dance. And, I of all the work that we do in the town, we like to think we've got a pretty good profile. And I think there's a message there about Haverhill Arts Centre events. We might think we're promoting it, and we're just not reaching it. And I'd be willing to put some effort in and join Councillor Marks if it meant that we could be active and take a proactive approach as councillors.
Well, it's one thing about, I think it's 3 years ago, was it, that we tried to get a town council gazebo down in the summer months, or at least the decent months of the market, that we could stand there handing out Arts Centre leaflets, answering questions. But at that time, and this was pre the last election, so I can't comment about what, but I think that's something we ought to be doing as well, is get out there into the market, people.
But forgive me, John, you're still talking about people who are coming into the town.
No, I understand that. No, but we've also got the other. We've also got the other problem where we all agreed that we were going to produce some sort of folder which would go on everybody's kitchen table when they bought a new house, and that's exactly what it was. We got 250 people up on the northwest of Haverhill. They're new people, and I know from the market survey that the people we did grab, which are obviously in town, but there's a lot of people who say they don't know. Councillor Lucarini, then back to Mason. Councillor Mason.
Yeah, the packs to go into new builds, we did talk about as part of, I think it was the Welcome Back Fund, or one of the government funds that we've got at the moment. But I think we've progressed with the idea. But just on first, it's not just people that are new in the town that don't go into the town centre. I'm always amazed by the amount of people that have lived years and years and years who say they don't go into the high street, they don't shop there, they'd rather go to Cambridge and Bury. So how we attract those people back as well is at least thinking about, it's a big issue. And on the high street promotion, obviously recently we funded the Loyal Free app, which appeared in the Echo several times and also on social media. That hasn't been a great success in my opinion, but we tried that. We've had the digital display boards on Cambridge Road, Bury Road and Mopsfield. I think they've been brilliant. Advertising events in the town centre. I think the art centre's been advertised on it, shop local messages. We've been talking as well about adverts on buses. There's been adverts on Star Radio. So there's lots happening to try and bring people into the town. It's not just social media.
Sorry, can I take Sarah first, Joe, before we go back to you?
Yeah, just to say, I've actually been in touch with Red Row recently, and I haven't heard anything back from them about this matter. And also, I don't want to be overly negative, and just because it didn't work last time doesn't mean it wouldn't work this time. But about 10 years ago, I tracked all the streets in Haverhill where we didn't have any customers. And over about 3 years, we did do the door dropping of the Art Centre leaflet. And when we went back to the, when I went back to the box office figures and tracked them again, it really didn't make very much difference. But that was 10 years ago, so it's worth another go.
All right. Okay, I don't want to labour the point because we're only fourth way down the whole list at the moment. So can we, Councillor Mason?
Yeah, just very quickly, Chair. At a previous meeting, we have talked about the What's On in Haverhill display boards. I do fear that they become invisible, and we need to somehow really make them so that they grab people's attention. There is one outside St Felix Church on the Queensway estate. It's not updated, and where are we in terms of what we've discussed previously in terms of making sure that these are updated to try and generate some community interest? Thank you.
Councillor Marks, quickly.
Just on Sarah's point, John, this is not just about Haverhill Arts Centre. The offering must cross the boundaries of people who just want a coffee in a cafe to a packet of chips to in order, you need to get them here first, and they need to come into the town for a reason, not a one-stop shop. And the work that Tina and I did was, as you know, chucked out of the window by Anne Gower, which I resent enormously because it never got off the ground because of that. We did a lot of work on it, and we can get offerings. The shops were prepared to give us those offers, and so it needs to be not just about the Arts Centre. That's just one very small part of it. Everybody will need a different reason. Might even be a haircut 10% off for the kids, shoes from Clark's, an offering at the time when children come in to get their shoes measured. There can be all sorts of offerings put in that kit in order to attract. Different people will be attracted by different offers, but it has to be an offer to get them here. So, I'm prepared to work with people to put that out there, and I'm prepared to do that work to help get that out. But let's please, this is 10 years now that I've been asking this. Please, can we just get on and do it rather than keep talking about it, because talking achieves nothing.
Right, well, we need to review what was discussed previously, because a lot of this we'd already agreed, and it wasn't just about the Arts Centre or the Town Council or events or anything.
John, you've agreed it, but you've done nothing.
No, well, that's why I'm asking the question. What's happened? I don't know what's happened. We've had COVID is one thing for 2 years. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of the stuff we've talked about tonight. There's a lot of crossover between what the bid will be doing. Can we have a standing invitation to invite town centre manager along, to these meetings, because we're discussing stuff in the high street, etc., etc., and we should all be singing from the same song sheet, as it were. The other thing, just my personal thing on the street festival, I think they're great to have different events going on in the high street. I'm not sure, all in one go, but I don't know. But that's the thing that sort of attracts me. If I had children with me, I'd take them down there to see that, and while I'm there, I'd buy something. If it's only just a bag of chips, I'd still, be down there. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Point of order, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Mason.
Yeah, just a quick point of order, Chair. I did ask a question whether, because we discussed it previously about the What's On in Haverhill signs, what progress has been made. That was the question that I'd like an answer to.
Sorry, about the notice boards. Yeah, they're not necessarily what's on. They're actually town council notice boards and a community board that is supposed to be updated by the people in that area. As far as I remember, that's how we did it. Colin?
Yes, so the What's On in Haverhill boards, which are in the town centre, have all been refurbished. Obviously, as the chair mentioned, COVID did mean that we didn't. We actually have to have stuff to put in them, so we do now have that. The display boards. There is one section for the community use, one section for the town council official notices, and one section for the for promoting community activities, etc. I think what we'll have to do is look at what posters we actually have available that we can use in there. The other thing I do need to do, and I apologise I haven't done it yet, is I need to make contact with you, Councillor Mason, and other councillors for North Ward, because we have now built the notice board to become freestanding, the one that was originally going to go on the side of the shops, and then we weren't able to place it there. So we want to have a discussion with you about exactly whereabouts that's to be placed, so we can then approach the landowners, probably West Suffolk, I would imagine, to get permission to erect it.
Yeah. Just as a follow-on from that, I've met with Lizzie Cocker about that and the planning team, and we're going to involve Stuart McAdam because we're possibly looking at a site on the new build.
Okay, fine.
I'll keep you updated.
Thanks.
Right,
Chair, do you want me to go on with this list then?
Yeah, go on. Suffolk Day was next one.
So Suffolk Day, obviously last year was a kind of online thing of filming sunrise over Haverhill, I think, and sunset as well. I've put a small budget in for that, but I think it's the same committee that's looking at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee event. So I don't think there's any expectation to do anything more than that, is there?
I mean, even not the previous year, maybe the previous year, we had the Suffolk Punch horse down. That was the only thing. We've never really done anything. Yeah, as you rightly say, we all got up very early on that morning to watch the sun come up.
Armed Forces Day, we already know that's going ahead anyway, and the budget's there for it. Haverhill Show we've mentioned. The Historic Vehicle Rally, that I don't know what the intentions are of the organisers, to whether or not that's even on their radar, whether their group has survived COVID as a group and are still meeting. But we can have that conversation with them if councillors would like that event to go ahead.
I'm sure Tony will. I personally don't have a problem. I just a little bit worried about the fact we're paying for all the expenses, basically.
Yeah, to be fair, John, there's a lot of people turn up. It's a very popular event, especially that the buses turn up. They give people free trips around the town. It's a nice event. There's a lot of people come from out of town with vehicles. I think it's really good.
That's why I was a bit surprised about the estimated attendance of 1,000. I would have said it substantially more than that.
Yeah.
Well, bear in mind the buses only carry about 60 or 70 people, and in actual fact, generally speaking, they're only carrying the top deck. There's not so many people. I don't think it's always quite so full. So you actually think 1,000 people, that's an awful lot of bus journeys.
Oh yeah, but it's not just the bus run. I'm talking about it's all the people wandering around and everything else like that during the day.
That's the estimate I've been given. I'm not sure how many.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's fine. Sorry, big day out.
Big Day Out is obviously the kind of the big town fete, if you like. So unlike the Haverhill Show, this is the one that tends to have kind of attractions, bouncy things, etc. I'm assuming a similar sort of weekend for that.
My only comment on that was whether we look at, I think the thing is very well attended. Again, I think 3,000, mostly predominantly young people turn up. My only view on that is whether we look at the suppliers again, because we keep on using the same people every year for that, and whether there's any alternatives who maybe are more local, have got variants rather than the same. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something. A climbing frame from Abbeycroft. Is there something somebody else has got that is different? Don't know. That's a thought anyway.
Okay. So then there's the outdoor theatre. I don't know whether that whether we'll be required to help out with that or not. Picnic in the Park always seems a very popular event. That seems to particularly attract young families. Then we have the tribute nights. Now, you did mention a kind of weekend, and we talked about the investment in the infrastructure and making use of it. Obviously, the challenge is that if it stays up overnight, we have to incur the cost of security. But certainly, there's a question of if we have enough staff, because obviously, tech teams, etc., it would be quite a long session if we cover something during the day and then something in the evening. So, I mean, we could look at that. At the moment, it's done as 2 separate events. The cost about $6,500 each to put on.
Yeah.
Councillor Lucas.
Yeah, obviously tribute nights are very popular. A lot of people ask now about when if they're coming back. We did talk about previously, and I wonder if it'd still be a good idea, is we run 2 nights exactly the same, whether to just try something different and run one night as maybe local bands, and then the second night as the tribute night, and see how that works. In fact, we've got 2 of them. We can almost trial run something potentially.
Councillor Smith, I'm sure you're willing to volunteer. Sorry, Councillor Smith.
Oh, I only got to say the word. I don't think the 2 nights are the same. So you generally get one with sort of like perhaps a band, sort of like should we say, for the older generation, and then you get a sort of like a boy band or a girl band or whatever. And I think the 2 nights are completely cater for a completely different audience. But no, I like them as they are.
Yeah, my personal view is I think it's we have the same genre all the time, and it's not necessarily old and young. I think it's quite often we'll have an ABBA group one year, then a space, and then ABBA again. It's Councillor Hanlon, then Councillor Lucarini.
I was just going to agree with what Councillor Smith said. That it's always been, well, it used to be 3 when I was first on council, 3 nights, but the 2 has always been separate to the younger generation and the older generation. But I was thinking at halfway, when there's a break, couldn't we put a local band on at that particular time on both nights? It's just an idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of local bands. It's quite surprising how many there are. That's the only thing. I mean, the thing was, I know for, this was being discussed over a year ago about taking one of them and making it into something different. Whether it's 3 days or whether it's just one night is a different matter. But anyway, Councillor Lucarini, you were going to say something else?
Yeah, I'm not sure the demographic actually changes between the nights. A lot of the people, I think, go to both. But yeah, I don't know. Just an idea. A lot of these tribute acts come from absolutely miles away. They're not local. It's just whether we could support local talent. That was kind of what I was thinking. Obviously, we don't always have to keep things exactly the same. It's probably good to try something new.
Okay. Fun days. Oh, sorry, Dave. Sorry, Councillor Smith again.
Yeah, would local bands bring the crowds though? This is the problem. If somebody's going to come along and they know they're going to hear a type of music, a particular band's music done very well, they'll come out. But if it's, I don't want to run down local bands. I think local bands are brilliant, but they're not necessarily as professional.
I think sometimes, from my own experience, it's actually the name of the group that comes bears no real resemblance to what they're actually going to be playing. And I've seen that many times. I filmed them many times, and I've actually been asked loads of times behind, who are they? And you say, oh, they're a so-and-so group. Some of them are obvious from their names, but some are not. Councillor Lucarini again.
Yeah, you might well be right, Dave. I don't know. Maybe people wouldn't turn up. I just wonder now. The tribute nights are so established. Whether you'd get people there regardless. Do they come specifically because it's an ABBA tribute, or do they just come now because they know there's music that night?
And a few bars, pubs open. Sarah.
I was going to say a mix and match approach might be good. but we'd actually need to speak to someone with a bit of tech knowledge as to getting people on and off the stage quickly, because there's nothing more boring than hanging around waiting. You want a seamless experience.
That's fine. We've got a few months, but that's just general thoughts on that. Do you want to move on to the fun days, Colin?
So do you want us to say we'll book at least one of those dates? We'll try and get some sort of tribute act, and then the other one we'll see what else is available there. I just think if we dilly-dally over both, we might well not be able to book anybody for either. And what about in terms?
So you're muted, Colin.
Sorry. In terms of suggestion of bringing the sessions together.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the sessions together, whether you do have tributes. The only thought I have is, in the past, without degrading, is often be the whim of somebody who thinks who the current popular person is. And it's always difficult to say who's going to be number one in August, of course. But I don't know.
I think it's always that, really. It's a matter of that person knowing what they're doing, really. So I think we just have to trust that we find something appropriate.
Okay. Are we happy with that, guys? Anyone shaking their heads? Like Gary? So you're muted.
Sorry. Since I've worked here and I've done every year the tribute night events, I have concerns about the safety of the team. We're caught between 2-3 pubs now. It's a late finish. People tend to get utilize the local establishments and their own provision of alcohol and so on and so on. It's a very late finish. There have been numerous incidences where we've had trouble at this event, and my overriding concern would be at this moment for the team. My own particular take on those tribute nights would be to start earlier and finish earlier. I think by the time we're putting things away, we're caught between people moving around town, going between bars. They're very, very long events themselves. They run for 3 hours, the actual event from 8 till 11, or just after 11. My own particular thoughts on this would be to run slightly shorter and to start earlier, but that obviously might be is obviously beyond the remit of this conversation. But I just like to flag that I think operationally, as a team, those tribute nights are very, very difficult for the team to get through. And I just thought I'd like to flag that at this particular juncture.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree. I mean, often we're finishing by the time we packed up, 2 o'clock in the morning, and other people are then about who have been in the pubs and things even longer. Councillor Lucarini?
Yeah, I agree with that. Going earlier makes it more family friendly. The last one that I volunteered at, there was a couple of incidents, especially as you get towards 11 o'clock. We did have an incident where we had to get the police down. The only thing I would say is the bouncers that we had, security staff that we had there were brilliant. Very well trained and quick to get involved, so we didn't have to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting earlier and going for a family audience. I know there's a lot of families still out at 11 o'clock. We do tend to see a kind of a drift away of families from about 10, because for the very reason it starts to become a little bit, can be a bit fraught. So I think maybe when we have these discussions that we can have the discussion about the potentiality of it commencing earlier and finishing earlier, particularly when you're talking about the team who've been on site from about 9 o'clock in the morning. And John mentioned, obviously, by the time the tech team are locking things up, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. That is a very long day.
Okay, Dave, Councillor Smith.
Sorry, can you just clarify what you saying, what you meant by bringing them together? So I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that.
Colin?
Well, there's been a suggestion earlier in this meeting about about them having a single weekend. So you have an event on, I suppose, the Friday night and then again on the Saturday, and potentially something during the day as well. So you're utilising the infrastructure, and the challenge we will have is security overnight, and also do we have enough tech crew that we can give proper breaks.
If you do leave the stuff overnight, then with proper security, you haven't got the problem of being there till 2 o'clock in the morning taking them down, haven't you?
Possibly, because if you left it, let's say, to the Sunday, you had something on the Sunday.
You wouldn't have it late on a Sunday, though, would you?
No. So you'd be taking it down during daylight hours and everything. Yeah.
Hey, thanks. Just wondered.
Yeah. Well, it could be just Saturday and Sunday. I don't know.
I think Gary's suggestion of having a discussion with tech team on that might be definitely wise. Chair, I am aware of the time, and Michelle has a presentation to give.
Well, the fun days you're going to sort something out. Do you want to do the Halloween trail very quickly at all?
Okay. So the Halloween trail, I suppose.
You can leave it until later in the year. Leave it for another couple of months.
We could certainly leave that for a couple of months. And obviously all these are Christmas things.
Right,
and
leave
Halloween,
those for a couple of months then. Let's otherwise Michelle will be here till midnight. Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you for that. Let's go on to item. I lost it. Whatever Michelle's item agenda is. 7 Delta. Does everyone know who Michelle is, by the way? Okay, could you introduce yourself, Michelle, please?
So I'm Michelle Brace, and I've been working on the Have You project for some time, but before that I worked as a youth projects officer, so was organising events and projects in the town for young people, so all kinds of things really. I've done mainly with Nick, but all sorts of things over the years, but recently working on the Have You project, which is a web and social media engagement project for young people. So that's what I do. I've made a little presentation because I thought it'd be quite nice to show you some of what I do. Hopefully I won't take more than 5 minutes. I'll try and make it snappy. But I thought it might just be nice to introduce you to some of that.
Thanks, Michelle.
So I'm doing a screen share.
Yep, something's happening. Yep, got it.
Ooh. Okay, brilliant. I need to go back. Just Have You? Basically, we've been funded since March of last year, since April of last year, to run a podcast and engagement project. So you should have had a couple of detailed reports on that, and all of the stats and all the figures and some of the outcomes that we've had. These are the ambitions of the project, to build engagement around the website and the social media project, to connect young people to skills and support services, and you make a thing, shine a light on the good stuff going on in Haverhill amongst young people. So I just thought rather than backtracking on the detail, tell you where we're up to now and what we're doing over the next 3 months up to the end of the project, and then just to open up the question of what happens after that, because we've got a really nice infrastructure here for some significant projects in the future, I think. So currently we're working on completing the support element of our programme, and that is engaging young people and inviting them to join the conversation. It has actually been quite difficult to get that engagement, particularly with getting through to schools and accessing young people who maybe the groups are not running as usual, etc. But we have had some success. Also promotion, focus on, actually I can't see my own presentation here because I can see all of you guys. But yeah, the focus on the wellbeing wall, and I'll show you what these things are rather than trying to get you to read lots of words, and really updating everything that is already on the website to make sure that it's completely up to date. So from now until the end of the programme, we're focusing really on skills, the Haverhill Skills series. So that is planned to be insights into Haverhill alumni who are doing really cool things, so exciting careers interesting things that might help to inspire young people and give them some ideas, I guess, about the future. An Instagram series celebrating young people's talents, and we've got a few examples of these that we've done in the past. So our Instagram contains all of those. We want to do more, and also looking at, I'll be talking to Jay Mills about doing a sort of pop-up outdoor event at the end of March, which is the end of the programme. So something just to celebrate those young people who've been involved. And obviously that's something we can generate content around and more social media, and obviously looking at updating the skills section of the website. So from April onwards, what do we need to do? I think the primary thing is a big promotion of Have You's offer, because I don't think everybody knows about it, and the fact that some of you guys didn't know about it when I've been working on it for quite a few years and presenting reports. I think it should have a creativity and mental health focus, the work going forward, and really to devise projects that engage young people, but also that generate engaging content. I think that's a really good way of doing things. Obviously I don't know if everybody knows, but we're planning through the Mental Health Youth Action Group an event at Haverhill Leisure Centre for April, I think that is. So that's in discussion at the moment. And also potentially looking at new funding streams to support the work going forward. So I think that's all I've got there. Yes, it is. So I'll stop. I'm not going to stop sharing, but I'm going to stop sharing this bit. And then I'm going to share my browser. So around the engagement side of it, the plan really, I mean, it's called a podcast project, but in the loosest possible terms. We've been recording conversations and then putting out bite-sized versions as Instagram reels, and some of those have actually been quite successful. And I think the more successful ones, like this one, for example, Puddle Book,
home, people friendly,
which is
there's always someone to talk to.
Quite nice.
It's just fun to ride around with like your friends. You get
Because
out, enjoy the sun, not see my mates social time and like.
Because we've got young people's voices and their video, you know, they were all engaged in doing that, and therefore they shared the post quite widely, and we got a really good play rate on that. So that was nice. And whenever these posts go out, we try and point them back to the website. And the website obviously is the repository for information. So information about skills, information about support services, and information about things to do. So in terms of the, can I see my browser? Yes, I can. In terms of the website itself, no. In terms of the website itself, there you go. Hopefully you can see that. So this is the skills page, for example. Every page of the website has also got social media embedded into it, but relevant social media. So I think the design of it and the structure of it is really nice. One of the things that we're working on at the moment is the Have You Wellbeing Wall, which is in response to the fact that young people need information about services, but it needs to be presented in a really agile way, so we can update it really easily. It looks good, it's phone friendly, more than one person can access and update this easily. So I think this is a really good format. It's already got its own URL on the website, so we're going to be able to direct young people directly to this page, and obviously then through a promotional campaign generate traffic to the website. So I think that's good and interesting. I was just going to tell you what we've just been working on. This is under the support heading. We have been, I've made the first sort of breakthrough really with accessing schools. As I've just did a conversation just before Christmas with 2 MYPs who had some really good thoughts to share on mental health and well-being and people's mental health. So I've sent these on to Sam Ward School, and they're putting together a group of young people for me to talk to at the beginning of February. So that means, you know, at last we do have some really nice engagement. We've had engagement around, you know, cadets and guides and things like that, but I think in terms of really getting a conversation going with young people around an important subject, this feels like a first, and I'm really excited for that. So this is a page that we're just working on. So that's the conversations PowerPoint, a YouTube video that was put together by one of the MYPs. So that's work in progress. In terms of shining a light on the good stuff that's going on in Haverhill, we've got I think if I just show you quickly, the sustainable Haverhill work that we did here, trying to find out what sustainable Haverhill meant to young people. We did a really nice podcast conversation, and then reported on the Haverhill Town Council survey from a young person's perspective, and then took out an edit which was about sustainable fashion, which got really, really good coverage and actually led to a BBC article on that. And then the sort of Keep Haverhill Tidy angle from young people. So I think there's been some really, really nice work. This particular thing, which was just a conversation with Castle Manor to see if they might have any input, put forward loads of pictures done by young people, photographs of the local environment, which was really lovely. And when we tweeted about that, because it had involved a lot of young people's work, that got really, really good engagement on Twitter. So that was a nice thing to do. And that also went in the digital display outside the Arts Centre. So that is good. I've told you about the current work, which was the How's Everyone Doing? And the next section, which is going to be around skills. And what I can't actually show you this because it won't let me. But with Irina Richards, who is a manga artist, we did a program of work with her online during COVID. And we asked her to do an Instagram takeover. And it was really, really lovely. She showed us around her studio. She told us about her work. She told us about the equipment she uses. She was talking as though she was speaking to young people. And I think that's the kind of thing I'd like to replicate for the skills section going forward up to the end of March. So if anyone knows anyone who has a really interesting career, who's from Haverhill, that would like to get involved, then I'd be really, really happy to speak to them. In summary, I think I'd just like to say that a lot of the hard work has been done with this. We've done the development phase. We've got the infrastructure there. We've got a things to do section with all of the regular, it needs updating, but some of the regular activities going on in Haverhill, and for instance, Haverhill Guides, who we had a little chat with, we've got an Instagram post that then embeds into this. So there's quite a comprehensive and local picture of what it means to be a guide in Haverhill. It's quite sweet. And I don't think there's too many other towns who have this kind of resource. So the way it's developed in my mind is really, really good. The building blocks are there. The Instagram following is building slowly. The traffic to the website does seem to correlate to posts. So, we need to keep more of that going. And, there might be better ways to do it, but I think this was a good solution and answered the needs at the time. The things that I think are needed, one out of the conversation with the MYPs, they said that we need to build a bridge between services and young people. And I think that's a really, really valid point. I think something like the wellbeing wall may help, but I think it's more of a personal introduction that is needed. And I'd be willing to do some work on that. So I think we need more of a social media presence. I think we need to be posting 4 or 5 times a week, sharing interesting stuff, which we do, but creating more original content. And there's a real opportunity there for young people to get more involved. So I think the other thing is SEO optimization, to make sure that people searching always do find this. They either find the website, they find the social media, and they find the activity. So there's more work to be done, definitely, but I think we've made a really good start on the project. And some of what we've done with the podcast project is really good. So I think there's been an opportunity for learning over this past 9 months, and there's more to come before we finish with that. So that's my whiz tour.
Thanks, Michelle. Sorry to keep you hanging around.
That's okay.
I mean, obviously, I've known about the project because I've been involved in setting up the website and stuff. I rephrase that, setting up the infrastructure for the website. Any questions at all from members, please? Councillor Dave Smith.
Not a question as such. I just want to say congratulations, well done, and thanks for all the work you've been putting in. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
Councillor Mason, and then Councillor Marks. We got conscious it's gone 9 o'clock, by the way.
Thank you for your presentation. Whilst you were talking, I thought I'd just quickly do a Google search, and I found the website. It's lively, it's colourful, it's everything that you would want. I just had a passing thought about whether you might think it would be suitable to have volunteering opportunities, you know, as kind of community engagement to try and, you know, involve young people in projects that may be going on around the town. Thank you.
Councillor Marks?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, definitely is the answer to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor Marks?
Yeah, absolutely. Be probably helpful to come to One Haverhill and do that presentation, because, you know, you're going to hit a different group of people. Just, I know Councillor Mason said he just put in that in the search engine, so did I, and I ended up getting the same name, but in Chinese, a Chinese organisation. So do be mindful. I just put in exactly the name and .com with in error, and I got a Chinese company by it. So just so that you know that if you're signposting it, just beware. I don't know what I can't read Chinese, but my niece can, so I'll ask her what I've clicked into. But you know, I think if you want to come to One Haverhill, I'm sure that if you contact Alicia, get put on the agenda, I think that would be very useful, because a lot of organisations, there's an enormous amount of people there who are connected to youth as well.
I've only got one question, which, Michelle, is obviously the funding stream from via West Suffolk comes end of March. What is, and you did mention future plans. Do you know how we're going to fund this? That might be a question for Colin, maybe.
Yeah, we have had a brief discussion about it. So, you know, I don't know. At this moment, I don't know. But I mean, I could do a plan which includes like a sort of minimum viable product. What would it take just to keep this afloat? Which would be a question of keeping it up to date, or, you know, the options for development as I see them. Like, where do we go from here, and see how it's costed?
Okay, it was just a question. That's probably a question between you and Colin, I suspect, is to.
Yeah, it's part of the reason for the presentation, so that councillors know about the project, because it will be a discussion point to whether we can find the funds to keep it going. Because obviously COVID has got in the way a little bit of being able to organise things, but it is a project. If you look at some of the numbers, I think one of those reels, 3,000 views. There's 3,000 views of young people in Haverhill is actually quite a lot of people in terms of the percentage of audience. So it does have the potential to reach quite widely to where it's supposed to be.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed again, Michelle. Appreciate it. Sorry to keep you up, you know, this time.
Okay.
And you're welcome to stay for the rest if you're desperate. You know.
Well, thanks for having me. And
we have gone past 9 o'clock. So can we have a proposal to suspend standing orders from somebody?
It's standing order 3W.
What is it? Which one is it?
3W.
3W, thank you. God, I always forget which one it is. Councillor Marks, seconded by Councillor Mason. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Hopefully the rest won't take too long anyway. Youth Skills Manager report, which you've all had. You know, as Michelle says, difficult times, and engaging with schools certainly is one thing I've always found. There's some sort of firewall. I'm sure Councillor Mason may see it from the other side. I don't want to spend much time on it, but it's a comprehensive report. Thank you, Michelle. Any comments at all, please?
Yeah, is there not? There's a request for funding, I think, isn't there?
There is. I was going to get onto that. Sorry, I was getting onto that. Okay, no, I've got no questions. Is what. Okay, in the report, you will see the. And I've lost it again. I had it. Is from.
The trouble is, John, the reports are on the same computer that I'm trying to watch you. So unless
Okay,
you
well,
put
actually,
it up on screen,
it was actually the.
I think it's Sandra's, isn't it?
It's in Sandra's report, which is actually agenda item 7, Charlie. So let's quickly move on to that one, which is actually the zone manager. I think it's been mentioned as a zone manager, but of course they don't. It's more than just the zone. Sorry, Councillor Mason.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Initially, Councillor McManus and myself contributed funds as to an initial startup project support for young people. That has grown, and that funding, I think, was quickly spent, and I think additional monies were found and sought to keep that going. I met with Sandra and Sue with Councillor McManus at the zone, and we were keen that the excellent work that is being done at the zone should continue. And we have organised £1,500, but I have been spent out, so the report is actually inaccurate. Councillor Roach is making up the shortfall of money that I couldn't contribute, and so that accounts for slight discrepancy in the report. I'm very, very keen that this project was to continue. We have only, as councillors, Councillor McManus and Councillor Roach, have only contributed part of the year's funding, and it was my recommendation that perhaps they should come to the leisure community to seek further funding. So in terms of my involvement, I'd very much like to propose that we should grant the money as requested in the report.
Okay. Before I take that further, only I think it was Friday maybe, I received an email from Lizzie Cocker at West Suffolk saying I had a little bit of funding left over, and I was actually going to talk to Colin particularly about this project, and I didn't actually get a chance today. So I am happy to put in half that amount. It sounds like Dragon's Den. Sorry. The report on page 2, about a third of the way down, is asking for £2,000, £1,500 to pay for the councillors to the end of July, and £500 to adapt the room, which is being done for the counselling. But I don't actually have any other projects that residents have asked me to do. I know it's only January, but we're getting towards the end of when we can start spending the money. So I'm quite happy to put in half that amount from my West Suffolk side of things.
I don't know what I've got left, so I can't comment, I'm afraid.
No, okay. But I was just saying, well, we don't have to make a decision now, but it's the concept of the £2,000 we're voting on. If we get some other funding that we can either supplement it or provide it. I mean, I'm quite happy to supplement it if we can, because it means it goes on longer.
Can I just add in the importance of the work that I think is being done here? I think there is some excellent work going on in schools, and I can see that firsthand with some students receiving support. But there is a lack of youth support at grassroots level, and I feel this project is kind of vital, ever more so in the times that we find ourselves. And I would impress, like the comments you've been making, that we find what opportunities we can to support them.
Yeah, I know Room 4, who are based in the Girton Centre, involved in this project as well. So I'm quite happy to put money in anyway. But regardless of that, we've had a proposal from Councillor Mason to fund this as per the £2,000 from our grant scheme anyway. Is that from the youth pot? I'll rephrase that of the Colin. Give me the right terminology.
So it would be viring some of the money from the youth grant fund that we have over onto this.
Yeah, thank you. That's trying to get it with words out. I'm quite happy to second this as well. So we got proposal and second. All those in favour, please show. We could work on Colin on other funding streams if you know.
Yes, certainly. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that. Was there any, very quickly, any other comments on the zone managers stuff? They've been doing a good job up there. It's unfortunate that people not turning up, or you know, and they've a couple of afternoons they've had to close because nobody's booked, which is really at least a couple of afternoons. But they're trying their best up there, you know, trying to get people to go up there. And the people who do go up there, they get very good reviews on Google, which is a good start to the business, if you like. We just have to think about the ongoing side of things. No comments? No? Okay, let's move on then. By coincidence, moving on to grant applications. Sorry, Gary, sorry.
Sorry.
You're a bit out.
I've got to go to put the kids to bed.
No, that's fine. Thank you, man. I forgot you were still here.
Thanks, Gary.
And I didn't know Sarah didn't have to stay either if she didn't want to, but it's up to you.
Good night.
No. Grant applications, as I understand it, there are none this time. The grant I had written down was actually that one we were just talking about. So that's fine. Grant recipient reports number 10, which is, you've all had this from the family history group. Great report again. Brian always writes a fantastic report. Tony and I are off to Stowmarket sometime next month. I can't remember what date it is. For the 80th anniversary of Warship Week, of which Haverhill Torpedo Boat 227 was involved, and hopefully we'll take the plaque from the Arts Centre to take it over there. They've also got a couple of other events, and I can't remember what they are, but they did tell me the other day, because I am a member of the family history group, putting a non-pecuniary interest on this, but there's nothing to consider here. So any comments on that report at all? No. Okay, that's great. Date of next meeting then.
Sorry, Chair.
Right.
It just needs to be accepted then.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we're accepting the report. Okay, so can I propose to accept Tony Brown, Councillor Marks? All those in favour, please show. Somewhere there. Sorry, I didn't know you wanted that. Right, sorry, item 11, date of next meeting, Wednesday the 9th of March. Is that right?
Possibly.
Now you've got me going, because I need to look at the...
I can't remember specifically why we said Wednesday, and I'm hoping that it is a Wednesday. I know I was having a bit of problem using Councillor Stinchcombe's widget. It seems not like being copy and pasted.
It's 8th of March, Tuesday the 8th of March.
Okay. I must have just clicked on the wrong one next to it.
The diary system. Right, we'll close the meeting then. Thank you very much at 21:18.